Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we talk about the issues that impact us in the dealership world. Whether it's the front of the store, the back of the store, or the office, doesn't really matter, because if we all get better at what we do, then the customer has a better experience. And the better the customer experience, the more business we get from it. They come back time and time again. They send all their friends, their coworkers, their family members. So we're going to change the industry one visit at a time. And I'm honored to have Michelle Johnson with Nissan and Infinity. She is the after-sales training person. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So why don't you give us a little bit of your background and how you got involved with what you're doing now?
Sure. First, thank you for having me here. I'm very glad to participate with you. I've been in the industry for, 24 years. I started when I was 5, so that explains that. But I've been in the business and I've had the great opportunity to work in so many different areas, whether it is calling on dealers in the field, wholesaling vehicles, working in customer service division, after sales division, marketing, product marketing. Where I'm currently working as senior manager for our after sales training for both our Nissan and Infinity dealers, based in Franklin, Tennessee at our Nissan North America headquarters. So I'm very happy to be here. Far as after sales training, what does that entail? So anything that happens after the vehicle is sold falls under the guise of after sales. After sales training, we do in dealership training, we do online training, and we offer workshops for both service managers and parts managers. So our focus is to help the dealers be more successful. And so in turn, that helps Nissan and Infinity also.
Now, do you handle for the entire country or is it regionalized? How does that work?
The U.S. So my primary scope is the U.S.
Okay, so it's a lot of travel.
Well, fortunately, I don't travel as much since COVID, but but I do have a team that also works with me, as well as we have about 10 facilitators that help us go across the country in their particular areas to help train our dealers. So.
And you're involved with TechForce as well.
Yes, I am. TechForce Foundation. Currently sit on the board. So it's an awesome organization that their primary focus is to drive attention and educate people on the transportation industry as a whole. Obviously, automotive and our automotive dealership body is included in that. I'm also responsible for our technician recruitment program that we have, the Nissan and Infinity Technician Training Academy. So we have 26 partner schools across the country where we basically try to create a funnel of qualified technicians for our dealers. So the students can work part-time while they're going to school, and then our dealers can hire them full-time once they complete their training. And so TechForce Foundation has been very instrumental in helping us with recognition programs as well as scholarships for the students as well.
Now, for those out there watching the show, whether it's live with us now or on the replay, a lot of people do watch it on the replay. I would advise you to go on techforce.org and you can set up a free account and kind of poke around there. And you'll see there's a lot of resources available to people that are in the field, right?
Yes.
There's an old saying: if you want to catch fish, you got to fish where the fish are, and they have a tremendous amount of resources available where there are training videos and modules and things like that, and they make it fun. There are contests where you can test your knowledge, and it's not a certification program per se, but everything doesn't necessarily have to be a certification program to get benefit from it. For instance, me personally, I've learned a lot of things on YouTube. Okay. things that I wanted to fix around the house that I had no clue about. I learned on YouTube and I was able to fix them. Am I certified in those areas? No, I'm not, but it helped me to take care of that. So where the dealership benefits, there's so many different training modules on there that it just helps them with education and it makes them more proficient in what they're doing. And as they're getting their certifications, it just adds to their skill set. So I want to play a short video because what we need to do is we need to change the conversation. We need to make, mechanics sexy again, right? For many years, decades, it's always been pushed. Oh, you have to go to college. You have to go to college. And nobody's really been pushing the tech school. But let's face it, I grew up in it. It was tremendous for me. And there are a lot of young people that would benefit from this. So let me play this short video and then I'll get to some of the comments. Let's see here.
You know me. I'm just a younger version of you.
I like to tear stuff apart so I can put it back together.
My hands are my best tools.
I learn with my hands. I work with them.
I think with them.
We know how to make things go.
So what would you tell me if I was the younger you?
Would you tell me to stop fidgeting?
Sit at my desk and try to be like everybody else?
Or that there's only one road to success? Or should I keep driving like you did, fixing stuff and figuring out how to keep the world moving?
Help me show the world that there's a profession right here in my hands.
Help me build my life and my career the way I'm wired to work.
For us, this is how we work, and you can lay that across to you. It's how we are, wired for success. If we stand together, stand for those of us who love working with our hands, we'll not only champion tomorrow's workforce of technicians, but we just may change the way everyone thinks about technical careers.
You figure it out how to be you.
Now help me be me.
Those are the conversations we need to be having with our young folks today. All right, let's get to some of the comments. Our good friend Ed Chipolowski, who's actually the one that connected me with TechForce. So thank you, Ed. I always appreciate your support. Ed says, good evening, everyone. And Robert Migliaccio, let's go, Paul and Michelle. Bring the fire. Robert Allen Carvel, good evening. And happy holidays. Steve DiMarzio, go TechForce. And Russell B. Hill, one of my SDL brothers. Well, good evening, everyone. Great topic tonight. And Craig Tomasic, good evening, everybody. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so we've had certainly enough challenges. And the first one that smacked us right in the face is the supply chain issues. How's that impacted from what you see on your end?
Well, I mean, I think that's no shock to anyone, right? Particularly the folks who are on the call this evening. Supply chain has hit every single industry. Automotive is not, exempt from that whatsoever. Everything from getting the parts that we need to launch our new vehicles, things have delayed getting chips. That's a major one. A lot of our cars today are, a lot of electronics, right? So without that chip, a lot of components are not going to do what we need it to do, right? The vehicle. So that's been a huge, huge impact. Not to mention service repair parts, getting key parts. They're from around the globe. I think if anything has taught us over the last 3 years, I can't even believe it's been 3 years for COVID, right? Come March. It's amazing. But we're still here, still fighting. But, I think everyone, if you didn't know what supply chain was, pre-COVID, everyone knows what supply chain is today, right? That was like that topic that we all heard before, but didn't really truly understand what it was until it impacted us the last 3 years, whether you're trying to get a service repair part or you're just trying to buy a gift for your son or daughter and you can't get it because it's on back order, right? And so, again, automotive has had the impact. Everyone reading the news, far as with the zero tolerance stance that China had. A lot of our parts coming out of China, a lot of the different things. So that impacts every industry. And again, automotive was not exempt. So we're slowly but surely, shoring up that supply chain. But it's not back to where it was pre-COVID, but we're working on it. So our goal is to try to get as many of the items that we need so we can satisfy our customers, and then obviously for our dealers so they can satisfy the end customer also.
Now, you guys are fortunate. I guess fortunate or not fortunate. You're not seeing that. I've heard from some manufacturers that they're waiting over a year for parts, and more of what you're seeing is just like delaying new product as opposed to having customers dehorsed, so to speak, for a year or more at a time. I mean, that's got to be.
I mean, those I think are probably some one-offs as far as service repair parts. There are some parts that have been delayed that it may take longer for a customer depending upon the repair. But I would say that's more of an ad hoc. We try, our parts team works diligently to try to make sure in our PDCs to get those parts out to our dealers, right? So there's a big machine going on in the background, making sure we get those parts from our distribution centers out to our dealers so they can get the customers' vehicles back on the road as soon as possible.
Now, we got a couple of comments here. Let's see. Ed Chipolowski, what training is available for EV technicians, and should EV technicians be licensed?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Yes, we have within our Nissan Tech Training team, we have LEAF certification, and now we're going to move it bigger with the launch of ARIA. EV training is becoming critical, right? So we got to make sure that our technicians are well trained, well informed, because that's a completely different vehicle, and the things that they need to be safe with those units. So EV training is critical. I know at Nissan and Infiniti it is a huge component, particularly with our launch of ARIA. We are requiring all our dealers who will sell ARIAs to complete that training. And now, as far as a license, I don't think there is a specific license that we have in play, but there will be a certain requirement that they must complete a certain level of EV training before the dealership can sell the EV vehicles. So we do have a requirement that they have at least one certified technician at the dealership in order to sell the EV units.
Now, does that mean then that only the certified technician works on it, or is it a situation with a certified technician with another tech works on it together? How does that work?
Primarily, it should be the certified technician is responsible for working on any of the EV vehicles that come into that particular dealership.
Okay.
So if anyone who is working on that, they should be certified.
I'm a believer that that's something that will ultimately benefit the dealers, because from a consumer standpoint, the technology is so advanced that if I owned an EV, I don't know that I would just trust anybody to work on it. So
right.
we're getting another bite at the apple as far as, an opportunity to earn the customer's trust again and have them come back to us. And it's really our moment to shine. So it's good that the OEMs are doing their certification programs and making sure that they are on the forefront of this, because
right.
that's how they're going to take back a lot of the business that has gone to other places.
Exactly. And that's I'm glad that you brought that up, Paul, because that's another area, right? So we know with EV vehicles, right, we know that service is going to be a challenge. Far as it's not going to be your typical come in for the oil change, X number of miles, right? There are other things that we have to focus on with this customer. Is a different type of customer coming into the dealership. So we as an automotive industry, as the dealers, as the after sales organization, have to put our thinking caps on and really understand this customer who is purchasing these EVs. What is it that we can bring them back to the dealership so they get their vehicle service? So it begins with that trusting the technician that should anything happen on their vehicle, that they can come back to the dealership to make sure they can get it serviced. But not only that, we want them to come back if they need tires, if they need wipers, brakes, anything of, the maintenance items. We don't want them to go to, per se, to the aftermarket. We want them to come back to the dealership as their trusted source of all things service repair needed on their vehicle.
Now you put a refreshing viewpoint on it, one that I love, because you look at the customer profile. You look at what is that customer about, what is important to that customer, and how do we enhance their experience in the things that their cars will now need, right? As opposed to, well, there's, these are the things that we're able to fix. It's the customer, it's what we can fix. But I love the way you put it, because you put the customer before what we can fix, because without them, there's nothing for us to fix.
Exactly.
Right? On them.
Yep. And we have to change that mindset. I mean, I think as we move forward, we just have to be very proactive and adapt. And, as we change, I think if anything, again, what we've learned over the last 3 years, everyone, I'm sure on this call, we've had to adapt. I know from my perspective in training, we would go in dealership, we had to immediately change and go online and do virtual sessions because we couldn't go into the dealership. So I think that's a learning that continues throughout the process, and making sure that, because it's so easy to say, with EV, it's like, well, they're not going to have the same issues that an ICE vehicle, right? Internal combustion, right? So yeah, that's okay. But there's still some things, it's still a vehicle. Technicians are still going to be needed. It's just changing and evolving how we look at what does a technician do. And that's what I love about TechForce Foundation, that they are so true to their mission of trying to educate everyone in the importance of becoming a technician, right? It's, I think, Paul, you alluded to it earlier, that, it's more than, just the path of going to a 4-year college. That may be a one path for some people, but other people can take another path and can be just as successful, sometimes, if not more successful, right? I'm always a firm believer that you can be successful in anything when you put your mind to it. So if you're someone who feels, hey, I want to work with my hands, I like to problem solve, this is a great opportunity. TechForce has a community for current technicians. You get on there, as well as future technicians. And we have that community that's on there. And like you're sharing the videos, it's not necessarily certification, but people talk amongst themselves on that community, and you get best practice sharing. And that's how you grow too in your field. I'll get off my soapbox. I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. I love a good soapbox. But it's all about community and collaboration, right? I mean, you meet people through that community, and people help each other.
Yes.
Let's see. Robert Allen Carvel, being a technician is the best kept secret out there. Good work ethic and dedicated to your trade is the key. To what you just said, the 4-year school isn't necessarily for everybody. I always thought I wanted to be a car designer. So I did about a year and a half of mechanical engineering. Well, I got so sick and tired of drawing nuts and bolts. I can't take it anymore. So I went into the repair and into the fixed op side of things. And that's where I started as a trainee mechanic that worked my way up through the ranks to foreman, to store manager, ran several aftermarket shops. And that really started me in the automotive business. other than that stint of driving parts delivery van in high school. But yeah, so the college is not for everyone. There are some great opportunities in automotive. And the beautiful part about our business is you don't necessarily need to go into this massive debt of college debt in order to become successful in automotive.
Very true.
Jerry Davis says, hello, I bet tonight will be on fire. I bet the show will be on fire. And there were always supply chain issues. COVID just made it worse.
Yes.
Because I can't see any other comments. Are people able to see mine? Yes, Jerry, we are able to see yours. Mike Fisher says, thank you, Michelle, for your efforts and offering your support to techforce.org. It's a passion for our team as well, supporting their efforts. And yes, Jerry, I can see your comments. Mike Fisher also is involved with TechForce, as am I. And Jerry says, sounds like a great opportunity to network. It certainly is. And, it's a place, communities are give more than you take. It's not one of those things where you're just going to go in and you're going to just snatch up all these technicians. No, that's not what it's about. It's about contributing to this community and building a network over time and getting the benefits from that. Now, recruiting talent is probably one of the biggest challenges that stores face today, right? And both sales and service. So what are some of the things that you see as being effective in overcoming some of those challenges?
Yeah. So, I think one of the biggest things, particularly working with our service managers, they're always, it's so hard to find, good people, whether it's service advisors, even sales consultants, and obviously technicians. I think that's probably the hottest one right now, understanding where can I find technicians, but even service advisors, right? And I think we had a training course that we've done in dealership. We've done workshops, giving them a template of here's what you need to do when you hire someone. How do you onboard them? Particularly with the generation millennials and the Gen Z coming into the workforce, right? They need to see that they have a career path. Wherever you bring them in. If they're a service advisor and you start them in at the express service, they need to see a path to say how I can have a living, how I can have a career going forward. A technician is the same way. You bring them in, of course, they're going to start out on the express service side, but they need to see a path where they can go into the main shop and make the additional money, right? I always say, particularly with the students who are part of the NTTA program, a key component is to get that hands-on experience while they are in school. And so I always tell our dealers, hey, you have to be competitive when you bring these young individuals into your dealership and you hire them. If your local Chick-fil-A is, giving them $18 an hour to work at Chick-fil-A and you're giving your technicians, $11 an hour, there needs to be an evaluation made, right? You do the math.
Right.
At Chick-fil-A, they're not bringing their own tools, when they're making, the food there, right? Whereas we're expecting these young students to come in with their tools. So, that's a key component. We have to level set and be realistic and be mindful of the current competitive environment that is out there today. And so recruiting, offering competitive wages, offering a career path, and having a strong onboarding, not the sink and swim, good luck, right?
Right.
Again, with this millennial and Gen Z, they're going to need a path to see like, okay, I feel valued. If they feel valued, they will stay. So that's a part of our training that we offer in dealership. And then we also actually have right now a workshop that we're doing specifically for our service managers to kind of help them and arm them with the tools. Because sometimes, let's face it, service managers are thrown into their role and they're not given the training that they need to be successful.
No way.
So that's my job to kind of help them be successful. So that's currently what we're providing. Our
Back in the day, it was okay. Shadow that person right there for a while.
Yeah.
And all right, I'll see you later.
And you hope that person is good, right? You know, that they're shadowing.
Yeah, and that they're not just teaching the bad habits. So
Right.
the onboarding and the career path, critical, right? Now, for a few different reasons, because number one, it shows the person that's coming in that this is not just some hourly job here.
Right.
This is a career. And this is where we want you to grow to, because as you reach each of these levels, this is what you can expect. So not only does it tell them that you're serious about offering them a career, but by the same token, it holds them somewhat accountable. Because now if I say to you at this particular juncture, this is what we expect you to be doing. Now, we expect you to be doing that. So you've got to learn that skill set and not be afraid to teach them and guide them along the way. Kenneth Dunner, savor the flavor of the awesomeness in you peeps for sharing your delectable, scrumptiously delicious, edibly tasty, good, heartfelt thoughts with us tonight. May you all and your family have a delectable, scrumptiously delicious, edibly tasty, good, heartfelt, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah holiday celebration, and a wonderful New Year. Annie from Sugar Land, Texas. Steve DiMarzio. Michelle, could you mention the TF 2022 Technician Supply and Demand Report?
Yes, that is another a report that TechForce provides, and it gives an overall outlook of what the current state of current technician supply and demand that's currently out there. And so just kind of like what I shared before, it is a hot topic. Everyone, every brand, and not just automotive, transportation industry as a whole. TechForce again works. I'm sorry.
Aviation.
I just want to say aviation, diesel. You know, everyone is having that issue. And so that report is an excellent resource to kind of give you the data that you can dig into, but it just really reiterates that the need, and that's why we need to fill that pipeline. And that's really what we try to do through our programs, whether it be NTTA, TechForce offers the various feature text, like the video that Paul shared at the beginning. That's what we try to give to parents and to counselors to kind of help them if they have a student, they're not derailed from saying and feeling bad about themselves because they say they want to be a technician. We like, hey, this is a viable career. Whereas if you put your mind to it, you can be have a extremely successful career long term. So thank you, Steve, for mentioning that report, because it is a great resource that just further instills the importance of why we need to focus on technicians across the transportation industry.
And automotive is a great career. At a very young age, I became a homeowner through automotive. And I know a lot of people the same way. You know, you can earn a good living in automotive where you don't have to stress out about, you know, how did you do on your SATs? You know, how much debt are you in? You know, you can make money right out of the gate. And I love the part about the affiliations with schools and the part-time technicians that are coming in. They're able to do schooling and do some apprenticeships because that's really key. Back in the day, we didn't really do any of that, you know, but that's how you grow. You have to ask yourself, you know, there are schools throughout the country. And as a dealership, you know, when is the last time that you gathered maybe your A-Tech that's been there a while, plus your new technician that's just started with you recently? When is the last time that you brought that to a school to address that school audience as to what's possible in automotive, right? I mean, we complain about the situation, but how many of us go into the schools and have those conversations with the student body?
Yeah, that's Paul, that's such an excellent point. I just want to piggyback on that. Because I've presented to our dealer advisory board all the time. Is Michelle, we need help finding technicians. And I always ask the question how many of you are working with your local area community college that offers automotive technology? And
Yeah.
normally this is what I get. Okay, silence. So I think more and more of the dealer bodies realize that it's a great opportunity. You're getting students who have already showed the propensity of their interest of being an automotive technician. So that's the source. That's to me, low-hanging fruit where you can find qualified students who are interested in working at your dealerships. So that definitely is a great opportunity right in your backyard. Even, I always say, I would love to have an NTTA program at every single school that is certified by the ASE Education Foundation. Put that caveat on there because I think that's critical. But that's not necessarily possible. But that does not mean you can still work with your local area schools. I just see Linda put in there veteran organizations. That's another one. I know some veteran organizations, when people are coming out of the military, they have an opportunity if they want to be an automotive technician as well. So that definitely is another resource.
Low-hanging fruit. You don't even need a ladder. You can pick it up right off the ground because it's just hit the ground. And, dealerships are great for contributing to the communities, right? Spend a lot of money, but let's help ourselves a little bit, right? I've heard from some people that, well, there's not a lot of programs in schools today because funding has been cut back. Mm-hmm. What a great opportunity, right? What an incredible opportunity. All the money that dealerships spend in their communities, why not partner with the school to start a program in that school, right? We spend money for all kinds of things. Why not develop a program in conjunction with a school? And then you have those students that are interested in the mechanical field as part-time employees at the dealership. So not only are you bringing the skills to the school, you're helping them, but you're also helping yourself because you're building your farm team. Now, I'm not a sports fan, but I do know that there's the professional team and then there's the farm team, which they develop, right? Yep. You could start your own program and the whole problem of not having enough people,
yeah,
go away. You could solve your own problem. So
I am a sports fan and I call it, that's building your bench, right? That's what you're doing, when you do that. It's a great idea, Paul, because really everyone, you're really building your bench for the future. So you have a continuous pipeline for your own dealership. And then I like what Linda said here too. When she was a service manager, she never let a technician touch a tool or a car until they spent at least a week on the service desk. They need to know what happens prior to the repair order being dispatched. And I think that's an excellent practice, Linda, far as making sure that the technicians understand, because sometimes there's always that kind of friction sometimes between the service advisor and the technician. It's like, well, they're not writing it correctly on the repair order or on the ticket. But then the technician can understand too, as folks come in on the drive, that can only help them be a better technician. I think it goes both ways. The service advisor needs to understand what questions to ask the customer so then they can more effectively communicate the issue to the technician. But that great idea.
I'm a huge proponent of cross-training, right? I found that oftentimes each person knows their function really, really well, but rarely does each person understand how all the other pieces fit together. So what you're suggesting here is really good, because if I have a better understanding as a technician as to what the advisor goes through, I may be a little bit more sympathetic to their struggle. I may make a little bit better effort to communicate with them and vice versa. So that's huge. And Linda says a career path and an education path that is critical, because that's the only way they're going to know that everybody's serious about this. And she says, and managers need to find out what motivates each employee. It's not always money. Bam! Mic drop on that one. It is not always money. It could be just being valued. It could be just being heard. It could be personal time with family. I was fortunate in automotive, in sales and service, to be able to attend all of my kids, just about all of my kids' events. Okay, my kids weren't the greatest in sports, but guess what? I was on the sideline cheering them on at the games, and they remember that. And the concerts, I was there for that. So knowing your employees and what motivates them could be that. You know, my friend, she was in sales, and the general manager of the store gave her concert tickets. Her and I went to a headbanging metal concert. We went to see Rammstein, and she got those tickets from her boss. Smart guy, right? Find out what your employees are about and cater to that, because that makes them feel, more a part of the team. And Robert Allen Carvel says, for advisors, retail department stores are a resource. Kohl's, Belts, Burger King, management training are acres to look at. You know, it's funny. I was speaking with my friend John Frazier, who is a service director at a Chrysler store, and he's got a service advisor that's just lighting the world on fire. And he was one such person that they have the work ethic, they have the desire. So why not find those people? They're green. They don't know anything about automotive. So you got to spend a little bit of time with them. But you're right. That's a wonderful opportunity to get quality people in your dealership. And Steve Apicella says, a dealer's value proposition is multifaceted. Why buy here and why return here for their customers, and why work here and why stay here for their employees too. We can't just sell cars and hire employees and forget the what they're after. Love your SNL community and contributions, Paul Meijer. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you, my friend, and can't wait to connect with you again at NADA. Steve's a great guy. He's got a great product that gives customers another bite at the apple, right? Oftentimes people go through the sales process. They buy a certain amount of products. There are other things that would enhance their ownership experience, but that's just gone once they've taken delivery of their car and they're gone. And Steve's got a great app, Your Dealer Experience, where they're always connected to the store, whether it's videos, the products they purchased, how to file claims easily on their own. So great stuff that he's doing there. And you got the Linda's comment before about the not touch the tool or car until they've gone through it. Sorry about the errors on my iPad, not a problem. You know, it's funny. A lot of times when we post stuff, auto incorrect changes stuff, and we don't realize it until somebody else points it out, because when you hit post or send, it's gone, and you think what you posted is what went out there, but that's not always the case. So helps break down the pillars, and yeah, Paul, communication is key. Now, your training is technician training, it's parts training, it's service training, and you have kind of a blueprint on here are some of the best practices that we've seen across many years and many people doing this, right? Mm-hmm. So those people that get dropped into that position, as we know it happens, something happens to the previous manager, all of a sudden that other person that's maybe the top person in that department, all right, congratulations, this is now your chair. have at it. Good luck.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
Michael Berich is a guy that we both know well,
Yes.
and he's been able to take advantage of hiring some of these people that were in training and in the
in the NTTA program, our Nissan Technician Training Academy. When he was at the dealership, yes, he hired several of the students out of the partner school TCAT of Smyrna.
And this guy, he went from being towards the bottom of the stores
Yes.
to number one in the country.
Yes. He
Wow.
made some huge strides. Yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal.
So in a competitive work marketplace, retaining qualified employees is a constant challenge. So what are some of the other things that, that you help the dealers with?
Yeah. So we talked about the recruiting, right? And saying, here's all the template that you need to onboard. So now you got them, right? They talked about, hey, looking for people, whether it be at Belks or what have you. So now you got them. Well, now how do you retain them? Because we all know that it costs a lot to constantly get new employees, right? So once you get them, exactly, show me the money, right? So once you get them, how do you retain them? And that's, again, and Linda, you kind of alluded to, find out what's valuable to that individual. It may not only be money, it may be training, it may be that career path. So that's the retention piece. And we look at that as well. So we're actually part of our service manager workshop that we're currently doing is tapping into not just how do you recruit them, how do you retain them? How do you make them feel valuable as an employee? And a lot of that is particularly, again, I hate to keep bringing that up, but it's so true because the millennials and the Gen Z, it's different, right? It's a different generation. So what they are looking for is slightly different. And so they're looking for that path. Okay, I'm working at the store now. Sometimes they think like, I've been here for 60 days. I'm now an expert. Okay, no, not really. But if you show them, hey, in 90 days, if you make this accomplishment and you reach this point, this milestone, there's a stair-step process, right? You can get here. Now you meet the next milestone. If they see that, that's how you can retain them. And that is so key in the process. Whether it's a technician or whether it's a service advisor, whether it's a sales consultant. And that's, to me, you hear a lot today that, it's hard to retain people. So not only is it hard you get them, now people are leaving. And I've heard, and I don't know, Paul, if you may have heard this, I've heard technicians, if they'll leave because they know it's a competitive marketplace and they could leave for $1 or $2 extra an hour because they don't feel they're being valued at their current. So, hey, I'll leave and go make $1 or $2 more an hour, when maybe if you just have that conversation, that communication is open and you can give them what they need and they don't have to go anywhere. You can retain them. So very important.
You set more realistic expectations because they know what's going to unfold.
Right. There's no surprise, right? I think if you lay out that path for them, then they can have that expectation like you're saying. And then it's up to you to make sure you fulfill that expectation.
Now, is there a percentage of in-person versus virtual training? Or does it depend really on the store and the location?
Yeah, so we, as far as the mix of our training. Yeah. So we have, we don't go in dealership to 100% of all our stores. So we go in dealership to about 30% of our dealers. And then the other mix is virtual. And then the other mix of it is online training that they can take at their own time. They can take that online training that's available to them. We do have certification for each of the positions that would be required that they have to take within a certain window. So yeah, so that is like the mix, but the virtual is like the live instructor, just like how we're doing like this.
Yeah.
We provide that to 100% of all of our Nissan and Infinity retailers. We offer that opportunity to our dealers. So then they can interact. They can interact with the instructor live during that session.
Now, is it like this type of session, or is there virtual reality involved?
No, it's just like this session where we'll have one of our facilitators will go through content, give them the opportunity to ask any questions, or what have you. So it's very similar. You know, we have it on Zoom is the platform that we use.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now, Craig Tomazik says, my comment is a little late on the subject, but it's time to get younger technicians already established in the industry that are passionate about what they do into schools to start teaching the younger incoming generations. We need more passionate and positive people training incoming techs. You know, the automotive business today, it's highly advanced. Okay, it isn't like it was when I started, where more of the repairs were mechanical repairs.
Mm-hmm.
These are electromechanical engineers, as far as I'm concerned,
Yes.
that handle things that are a lot more difficult. And when we look at the repair opportunities, and you know, we may say, okay, internal combustion engine has X amount of parts or thousands of parts, compared to an EV, which has a lot less parts. But that's not all that goes, right? There are still things, window motors, servos, and all kinds of other things that go. And there's still lots of recalls, you know, that I think my friend at Recall Masters, Sean, he said the incidence of recalls is a little bit higher on some of the vehicles that are EVs. So there's still plenty of opportunity, but we need to have those conversations early.
Yeah. And I think what Craig was alluding to is like, you know, getting those instructors to teach those younger generation future techs, right? And, you know, and some folks, and that's why I always encourage students to complete their training, their automotive technology training programs, right? You know, versus just always jumping in and working and without getting their associates. Because in order to be an instructor, you only have to have your 2-year degree. And sometimes that does hem up some technicians who would be excellent instructors. But it's just, you know, the foresight to make sure you complete your training so you can be an instructor. Because there's a need to try to find qualified instructors also, so we can teach the future techs.
Is that as hard as finding the technicians?
Sometimes it is a challenge to find, because you can always, it's just like being, and I hate to bring up sports, but you can be a great basketball player, doesn't always mean you'll be a great coach. And the same thing applies to, you can be a great technician, but it does take, you know, a special personality or temperament to take that skill set and also be a great instructor and teach future technicians. So it is, you know, sometimes a challenge for our technical training centers and even the schools to try to find those instructors. But it's a great opportunity for someone who, you know, may want to do that.
And Craig says, yes, I'm a millennial that started in this industry 15 years ago. It very certainly was the Wild West. You know, you want to talk about Wild West. When I started, you know, the whole concept of bell to bell, you know, people work crazy hours. And the millennials today aren't necessarily looking to spend, you know, 100 hours at the dealership.
Yeah, no, that's a definite, right? It's more about work-life balance. And I think that is, again, one of the things within the industry that we have to adapt. And, you know, creating, again, I think that lends to like what Linda was talking about, you know, in her comments about that communications, what is valuable to that employee, and creating the workforce, right? So as a dealership and as a service manager, what can you do to make your dealership attractive for for someone who wants to come to work there, right? And so by doing that, by adding that structure, by providing flexible hours and not kind of having that mindset that, you need to turn 80 hours a week to make a living, right? That flexible work-life balance is going to be critical.
And with some of the resources that are available, with the part-time people from schools, you really have a better opportunity to get more coverage, because you've got to bring people in. So there's not a pool of people that are just ready to go. And it's critically important to develop them.
Right. And, that actually leads to me talking about developing, and it's about mentorship. And so, when you bring in the new employee, it's really important that they are set up with a mentor to kind of help them through the process to learn, because you can learn it at school, but you still need to kind of get that real world experience. And so you need that mentor to kind of help guide you through that process. And then we have to make sure we give that mentor I call it what's in it for me with them, right? Because the mentor will say, well, what am I getting out of it? Now I got someone I have to kind of, guide through the process. So it can be a win-win for both. And so I think mentorship is also a key retention tool for a new employee coming into the dealership, that they're not just kind of thrown out there and say, good luck. They have someone to kind of help guide them through the process early on in their career.
And that's a very important part, because the relationships are developed in those situations where they may go to that person and ask them things that, if they didn't have a mentor, they might get discouraged and be afraid to bring up a problem that they figure that they're not going to get any help with. Mm-hmm. I want to play another video, another TechForce video here. Just put this on.
Our number one priority at Bridgestone is Technician 2.0, as we call it. And it's all focused on work-life balance, pay structure, development, education, growth, opportunity for advancement, career placement. So we understand the importance as an organization. The foundation understands the importance of technicians. So we wanted to partner together and make something come to life.
Oh, it's an amazing job. Like I said before, you look around, everybody has a car. You have a car or a bus or something with four wheels that goes. You need technicians.
There's a shortage of all those people in the industry. So as a shop owner, when I go to conferences and I'm meeting with other shop owners, the number one problem that we have in our businesses is finding you.
My parents' generation, they would say, well, we had such and such technical classes in high school. We have drafting, or we have auto shop or welding, and there's no funding for that anymore. If you do go to those courses, instead of going full-time to high school, there's a stigma about that. If you can't make it in high school, you can't make it in the way we want to teach. And then you graduate from school, and everyone else is going off to college, going into debt, and you're going into the workforce making money. So it seems kind of, doesn't really go together in my mind.
I think more or less talking to the kid and figuring out who they are. Like, if they have so many different quizzes and algorithms and things to try to figure out who you are, well, maybe that needs to be introduced a little bit earlier than it is right now.
For us, this is how we work, and you can lay that across to you. It's how we are, wired for success. If we stand together, stand for those of us who love working with our hands, we'll not only champion tomorrow's workforce of technicians, but we just may change the way everyone thinks about technical careers.
You figure out how to be you.
That'll help me be me.
The thought process so long has just been, we can't get people, and that's it. But there are stores embracing looking at things a little bit differently and bringing on some of these apprentice programs. What are you seeing? Are you seeing a lot of people change as we're getting deeper into this? I mean, we're in our third year now. What are you seeing out there?
I think, it's always the 80-20 rule, right? I think the bulk of the dealerships are viewing that as an opportunity, working with their partner schools, hiring the students as apprentices, and hiring them as full-time, technicians. So they realize the importance of bringing up that next generation, and that they have to be proactive in going out to the schools, talking with the instructors, talking to the students, to kind of pull them into their specific dealership. So I think, to answer your question, Paul, is like, yes, I would say the bulk of them are doing it. 10% are, going above and beyond. And we still have that 10% who are saying, Michelle, I can't find any technicians, but they're not necessarily doing anything to kind of help themselves. So we always kind of repeat to say, well, are you working with that low-hanging fruit? Are you working with that partner school right in your backyard? So that's what we continue to encourage them to do so. And again, within that TechForce Foundation, going on to the website, techforce.org, and looking at all the schools that are on there. And one thing we didn't mention, we talk about the future techs, which is awesome. But there's also award programs out there for current technicians. So again, making current technicians feeling valued. And there's opportunities for current technicians to get recognized, not to mention women techs also, right? So we're trying to open up that whole spectrum. So everyone is kind of being acknowledged. Because we still got a ways to go as far as the female techs to get more of that representation in the realm as well.
And scholarship monies, things like that, are also available to help people get schooling.
Yes.
Robert Allen Carvel says work-life balance. It's developing a pay plan, not only for pay, but time off. Employees are looking for quality of life. Their parents worked for standard of life. That's a good point there, because there are a lot of people that expect a 40-hour work week today. They're not looking for that 70, 80-hour work week. And we've got to work towards that. I think we still have a ways to go before we can get to that, just based on what we have. But it's always like the chicken that came before the egg, right? If we offer the 40-hour work week, even though we may not have enough people, will that help us get more people? Or is it we need to get more people before we can get to the 40-hour work week? Right? Like
that's the riddle that needs to be solved, right? Like how do we attack that? But one thing I think it's important for everyone to realize too, like a lot of this generation too saw, like, in the Great Recession of 2008, where their parents, may have worked for companies for a long time and then end up losing their roles to no fault of their own, but just because of what have you, of the economy at the time. And so they grew up during that period. So now for them, it's really important that they have that work-life balance, because they saw their parents working 60 hours and then lose their job regardless of that effort. So I think, we're just all mindful of that's the mindset that's coming into the workplace. I think we all will have a better understanding of why they have that mindset, and be much more open and provide that. And so I think, Robert, like what you alluded to, the pay plan is definitely, cash is always king, right? But giving time off and having those flexible hours, I think is just as valuable for as a benefit to employees to take into consideration.
I think probably more so, because I had that opportunity in the business, and this is my 43rd year in automotive. I'm old. Okay, I'll admit it. But it's because I had the time to do all those things and time to spend with my family that I've enjoyed it and stayed in it. So, hey, I appreciate your time on a Sunday night. It's already 9 o'clock. The hour kind of flies by. But I hope this opened some ears, opened some eyes. If you haven't already checked them out, please go on techforce.org. Take a look around. You can sign up for a free account and get involved and learn about all of the resources that are available to you, and formulate a plan on how we can change the, I can't find technicians, into something different where we all benefit. So I wish everybody a safe and successful next week. Let's see, we're not going to have a show on Christmas Day, so Merry Christmas. And I think this is the first day of Hanukkah. I'm not sure, but I want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and thanks again. Thank you, Michelle.
Likewise, I want to wish everyone a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. And thank you, Paul, for having me. And I appreciate everyone joining us this evening. Everyone have a lovely holiday.
All right, Michelle, stay on after we go off here for a second.
Okay.
Thanks again.